Oh, crap. It's time for the news. Oh, who would have thought it is time for another Infobyte? In 1 second, I need another drink of this here. Hair of the dog after last night's player versus player talk show. Funny enough, you can catch on twitch.tv/it's PVG. But yes, we have got some more Infobytes for you today, guys. Of course, I need to give you a little update. Last week, we were given a community strike by YouTube for last week's video. And if you've missed that video, you can see it right here. And it was talking about the adult content changes coming to eBay. YouTube thought that we might have been, I don't know, showing adult content on the video. We weren't. There was no videos, no images, no items of adult nature, except for the grown-ass adult talking about the news article. However, we had to appeal a community strike against the channel. It may have suppressed the video, so I would humbly ask that if you've missed the video, please go check it out. Please give it a like. Please give us some comments. Show it some love, because we got diddled by the algorithm last week, and we want to make sure that doesn't happen again for us. But we got some more news here. An update as well. Got a few little updates before we get into this. We're going to be changing the format of Infobyte a little bit. We do these videos once a week, but we're finding that we have to be a little bit smarter for the news, and that waiting to tell you about the news at the end of the week is not necessarily the smartest thing to do when it comes to news, because by the end of the week, some news is no longer news. So we are going to try and do these videos a bit more sporadically, and when I say sporadically, we're going to try and do it as the news comes out. So you may see these videos come out a few times a week, maybe only once a week, depending on what news that we think is important. We're going to try and bring the news, guys. We're not going to sit here and tell you about the new updates to Fortnite skins or things like that. That news doesn't matter to you, and I don't think it matters to us either. Well, we know it doesn't matter to us, but we're pretty sure that you guys want stuff with a little bit more substance when we're talking about the Infobyte. But anyway, guys, it is time to get into our news articles. Let's get to it. Our first article, guys, is some interesting news that came out of the PlayStation investors relations document. It's a little bit of a PR document, but there's some interesting figures and facts in here. So it seems like when it comes to the actual demographics of PlayStation, there are some key interesting metrics that have came off the back of this here. First and foremost is that apparently people who have came into the PlayStation architecture at PS1 stages, right back at the console's actual original release, have actually stuck with the console. On top of that, they've also seen a massive growth in the demographic for females in the actual console space, which is no surprise, to be fair, because the amount of females playing video games is pretty much outnumbering males in the general demographic at this point. But it showed that from the PS1 to the PS4/5, it went from 18% of the player base right up to 41% of the player base. Great fucking numbers, if you ask me. Top of that, they're talking about the fact that they also expanded massively outside of the markets of the EU, NA, and Japan, which is pretty much what we expect to see. But these growth markets tend to be in the likes of South America, South Africa, and also mainland Asia, obviously outside of Japan. Top of that, they also apparently have had this PS5 generation's had probably its best launch period, or best launch SKU of all of their consoles. They, in their investors document, they talked about the fact that they actually ran this against what happened against the PS4 versus PS5, where it showed a lot of the PS4's launch titles were kind of middling and weren't really successful. They showed some Metacritic averages and showed that a lot of those Metacritic averages were kind of in the 40s and the 50s and the 70s compared to the launch items and games of the PS5, where a lot of the Metacritic scores are in the 80s and 90s, and at the very worst, the high 70s. Massive jump there as well. They're also talking about the fact that they've had more support from a first-party level when it comes to the actual games itself, citing a lot of their exclusives coming to the actual platform as well, are kind of heavy hitters, and also have them front-loaded for the console, as well as a lot of support from third party as well, from the likes of the Final Fantasy, from Resident Evil Village, Far Cry 6, Ghostwire, the whole 9 yards. On top of that, they're also talking about their growth in the PlayStation Plus market. They're saying at this point that the number of paid subscribers is up to 48 million, and that they kind of break down some of the reasons why people are willing to pay for the PlayStation Plus. Predominantly, 40% of these people are wanting to play for the online play. 30% is for the free online games they get every month. 18% for the discounts and 12% for the storage. And they're sporting a lot of high 8 to 9 to 10 satisfaction metrics across the actual opinion of PS Plus. On top of that there as well, we also have seen apparently a lot of growth in the cloud stuff. So apparently PlayStation Now has up to 3.2 million users. That kind of shocks me because I haven't really been fond of the service, but they're also talking about things that the enhancements of the clouds and cloud saves are bringing to the console, as well as some growth in the PlayStation Studios, especially when it comes to their third-party support and whatnot, like with the game of the show. In all honesty, it's some interesting metrics, but what I want to try and make sure we don't try and get involved in here is that it's a lot of Sony PR as well. And Sony is trying to get that good PR, considering they got some bad PR over the stuff with Apple versus Epic in relation to their actual stores and the price gouging of those stores. So I don't want to make it sound like we're here to shill for Sony. We're not. The few things that I do want to take out of it, I think they're really great positives, is definitely the expansion of the actual demographic, especially in the female demographic, have being more representation of that demographic on the consoles. So that's always great, but that's of course already being represented in gaming as a whole anyway, and other places as well, where we're starting to see better quality games and more front-loaded software on consoles going forward. Hopefully this is a thing as we go generations, that we're not sitting here twiddling our thumbs with £400-500 / consoles with nothing decent to play on them. It looks like there's at least something happening to give us a bunch of nice software up the front end. The rest of the metrics, while they're interesting to read, I don't want to blow too much smoke up Sony's, but it's interesting. And again, if you want to try and like deep dive into figures a little bit more, can do so. We've linked the article below the player, but let us know what you think. Have you managed to get your hands, I know we asked this before, but have you managed to get your hands on a PS5? Or are you happy with the Xbox consoles? You know, as long as you're enjoying games, that's the main thing when it comes to my mind. But have you been able to get a hold of one of these consoles? Are you enjoying the consoles? Or are you still one of the people out there who are still trying to get their hands on one of these things? Because I know they're quite gold dust. And also from Valve, there's an update on a portable PC console coming from the publisher / developer called the Steam Pal. That's right, Valve are bringing a portable console, Switch-like console may I add, to the marketplace that runs off the Steam architecture. Ars Technica reported that there is a bit of code that relates to a device called the Steam Pal that was in the most recent release of Steam. This software as well has been backed up by a few other cooperators as well. They've talked about the hardware side of things, saying that the console itself will be much in line with the actual Nintendo Switch. What we mean by that there is that it's going to have removable controllers as well as the typical triggers and buttons and analogs that you would find on a Switch, but also have docking capabilities, much like the Switch has, going into your PC or your TV, via USB-C. Now, with this being said, there has been talks about the architecture itself as well, running off the AMD platform and hardware, which is no surprise considering AMD have been powering the current console generation. On top of that, they've also been the front runners in the PC hardware architecture as well for the last little while. But this is interesting that they're going with this demographic now, especially given how accessible PC gaming has become. But regardless, there's been no talk of a price point as of yet, or a release date. However, Gabe Newell of Valve, being as cryptic as he likes to be, was talking to a school in New Zealand regarding the matter when asked about the console and Steam's integration to consoles. And he specifically said, and I quote, "You'll get a better idea by the end of the year, and it won't be the answer you expect." End quote. With that being said, it sounds like they are not going to go into the idea of porting Steam over to console marketplaces, but instead are going to relaunch their own full-fledged Steam console. Now that sounds kind of interesting to me because PC gaming on the go sounds like it could be really fun, and there's a lot of games on the Steam library that could make a little console like that there really enticing. I don't know if I would want to play CS:GO or Dota on the go, but that's just me. We're not limited to Valve titles. There's a whole slew of third-party game support, including indies, on the platform, so it still could be quite an awesome little console. But prices has yet to be told, so maybe it won't be as affordable as maybe the Switch itself, but we'll see. However, I gotta ask the question, if something like this comes out for the market, would you be interested in playing with a console like a Steam Pal, or do you think that PC gaming is just better suited for sitting at your desk with your mouse and keyboard? Why don't you let us know down in the comments down below, guys. Well, guys, that is our Infobyte for this week, and maybe the last Infobyte that we give you for a week, or maybe for a day, or maybe for a few days. Again, we're going to be taking this in a different format. We're going to be trying to be a little bit more on the ball with the news, so you may see videos from us regularly throughout the week now rather than once a week. But that doesn't mean we're not going to give you the rest of our awesome content. Of course, you're still going to get the full replays of the Player vs. Player talk show, along with any indie dev stuff that we've been working with, because we have been working with indie devs as well, as you've seen, and we've been giving previews of Cosmic Bacon's awesome prototypes with his work with Pigs and Blankets, but we are working to try and work with more devs to try and bring more interesting games onto the platform, so you might see that as well. But if you have enjoyed the video, I'm going to have to, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to ask you to like, I'm going to ask you to subscribe. Drop a comment down below. Have a chat with us. Is there any articles we missed that you think that were important? And hopefully in the future we won't miss any articles you think are important, but well, you never know. You never know. But anyway, guys, if you want to catch myself, you want to catch, Mr. Cosmic Bacon, the lovely man himself as well, on our weekly talk show, you can check us over at twitch.tv/itspvg. That way you don't miss out on that sweet show every Friday night at 8 o'clock UK time. But anyway, it's time for me to love yous, time for me to leave yous. But you know what it is? If I'm really lucky, maybe I'll see you on one of our solo streams. But anyway, have a good one, guys. Peace.